Welcome to the Volta with Jennifer Jean, me, where we closely read poems, some of my favorite poems, sometimes my own poems, in order to help you make your poems into their best selves. I also talk about the business of poetry and publishing and poetry and generally writing career paths and advice and things like that, as well as updates about my own work. I'm involved with so many things. I work at 24 Pearl Street. I'm part of the Her Story is Women's Artist Collective, and I'm an editor and writing coach, and I do so many things. So I like to share those things with all of you, as I said before, in order to help you make your poems and your poetry writing life into its best self. So today we have here a special Blue Room extravaganza. I'm in a different place than where I usually record. Usually I record in, I guess you could call it the rose room. Usually there's some roses behind me. But today I thought I'd try something different in order of to celebrate the name change of my channel and my Patreon. It is now the Volta, which is a new thing, as well to celebrate the fact that I will be talking today about a poem I really love by a poet I really love, Moon Jellyfish by Jennifer Martelli. So this poem is special to me for so many reasons. I saw it through its journey into publication, meaning I just workshopped the poem with Jennifer, and she's a fabulous poet. This is an amazing poem. It was eventually, and now is, published with Poetry Magazine. And when we take a look at the poem, we'll be going to their website. Now, I have another kind of relationship with this poem. Actually, when I first thought of doing some sort of podcast or YouTube channel or something along these high-tech lines, I talked to Jenn Martelli and I asked her if I could interview her, and we videotaped ourselves through Zoom talking about her poem. And I thought I would do an interview series, and I even pitched this series various places. It hasn't as yet gone anywhere, but I'm thinking of bringing that interview portion back to this channel. I really liked doing that. It was exciting to talk to her. But since that video hasn't gone anywhere, I thought I would look at her poem and maybe interview her in the future, Jenn, if you're listening, about another poem of hers, because as I said, she's a fabulous poem. So many of her poems are amazing. Check her out if you haven't already. Okay, so now let's take a close look at Jenn Martelli's Moon Jellyfish. Moon Jellyfish. Walking the low tide beach at dusk, I stopped short at a dead jellyfish. Pink poison, a tattoo on the nape of a neck, still stinging, hurtful. Further on, another Uncle Fester's bald scalp, dumb, electrified. Hundreds left strewn all over the mud, clear sandy blobs, half-globe sadnesses. One jellyfish lay like a broken magic 8-ball, too hazy to tell. One had black sand dried into a small V like the back of a pixie cut, or a soul patch, shaved and groomed, a mound shorn to please, sexy and so plump. One fit into a bra, balanced breasts. One missed the wave, couldn't get home. A heavy-set woman paddled her board toward the little harbor north. Did you see all of these? I yelled. My words echoed off her sunburnt skin. One, a dried purple plum. One had the imprint of a toddler's soft arch. The harbor illuminated with globe lights strung off the yacht club's piers. I realized this was my old drunk nightmare, but I wasn't sure who else knew. The boozy boats moored, bobbing. The woman, rowing, hair pulled up and clasped. Okay, so I love so much about this poem, but today I just want to focus on one aspect, which is so hard because there's so much here. Comparing a jellyfish to Uncle Fester's bald scalp, that's just funny and sad as well. And also ending the poem on 2 questions. Wow, that's amazing. I'm not going to get too much into that. What I want to talk about today, in honor of the name change of my channel and Patreon into the Volta, is where Jenn has her Volta. Okay, And I don't think that she has a hard turn. She has a rather gentle, or maybe gentle is the wrong word. I would say she has deceptive turn. Deceptive might be it. Right here in the fifth to last line, when she speaks, when there's a moment of dialogue. Did you see all of these? I yelled. My words echoed off her sunburnt skin. It's really the did you see all of these? I yelled. And that's interesting because she's been telling a story about one instance of a vignette, basically, about seeing these jellyfish on the beach. And all of her language choices speaks to the fact that this is really, a moment full of pathos, stinging, hurtful, dumb, electrified. And then even the word sadness is right there. And not just sad, but she said sadnesses, which I really love. All of her word choices speak to that. We get the point, but not just we get the point, be quiet, but we get the point. Oh my God, I love this. I'm going along this journey. I'm part of this vignette along with the speaker. And it's amazing. And here's the thing, she could have just shared this vignette and let language do its job. But she chose to have the speaker really be vulnerable in this moment and not be able to simply just share the story, but to call out. I mean, and what is a poem but a calling out? Did you see all of these? That's what a poet essentially is saying with many poems, so many poems. I would say, I don't want to say all poems, but in so many. Look at this. Did you see this? And the fact that she has this moment of dialogue here just increases the pathos. It just really drives the stake into the heart even more deeply, to use an adverb, even though those are not so welcomed in poetry very often. Anyways, did you see all of these? I yelled. And there's this, this other person is here. A heavyset woman paddled her board toward the little harbor north. I mean, that could have been in that other, imagined poem where the speaker doesn't speak at all. This could just be another thing that's seen. Even though so far everything is jellyfish. We have this low tide beach, but that's just the setting for all the jellyfish up until then being the heavyset woman shows up. But that doesn't seem so odd. I mean, so someone else is there. But it's almost fortunate that this other person was there, so that the speaker could just reveal herself, as I said, in a vulnerable way and just call out and make it even more of a plea. Look at this. This is amazing. This is affecting me. This is making me so emotional and sad. Did she, it's this moment of seeking connection. Okay. And this poem was not written, as I said in my introduction. I saw this poem in its infancy, as it grew and developed into a grown-up poem, having workshopped it. And so I know for a fact that it wasn't written during the pandemic. However, here's this moment of a seeking of connection, like having experienced something and a reaching out, which is, I'm sure, something all of you, and I know I have wanted to do, really reach out to people, having been inside for so long, and even going outside and being cut off from people via masks or distance, physical distance, and not being able to touch people and just wanting to reach out. So, maybe also this poem is hitting me in a new way. But I remember at the time when I read the final version, I also thought the same thing, that the speaker is doing this extra move, this volta. Okay, so I didn't define volta, did I? A volta is a turn, okay? And it's, I believe, Italian. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Jen or anyone else. I believe it's Italian. But in any case, it means a turn. And when it's used the term for a poem, it's a turn in a poem. And this is a turn, okay? It's away from just look at these things, reader. I'm just sharing this sad thing. It's this extra moment, as I've been saying over and over. I know I'm repeating myself. Asking the reader to see closely and connect. It's a plea. It's a almost desperate plea. And what's interesting is then the words are echoing off the sunburnt skin. Maybe the woman didn't hear. Maybe she did hear and she was like, whatever, I don't care. I mean, there's no answer. There's no look. There's no gesture. There's no nod. It's nothing. It's so sad, actually. Sadnesses abound here. So, and so the speaker goes back to talking about the, I believe the jellyfish. One, a dried purple plum. That's another jellyfish, and then another one. And then we get, the landscape again. We're moving back to the landscape, and we get an epiphany here in the penultimate line. I realized, etc. I realized this was my old drunk nightmare, but I wasn't sure who else knew. So there's a confirmation of what I was saying here. Did you see all of these? I yelled, and there's this desire to connect and a desire to know I'm not crazy, that this sadness isn't my own. I don't want to be alone with this sadness. And that's the old, I would say the old drunk nightmare. And who else knew, what's around? The speakers say is implying that she's looking around, there's boats here, there's a woman here, she's, at the end, this woman isn't just a woman, she's rowing. She doesn't say away, but there's this, sort of micro attention to the woman and what she looks like. Her hair is pulled up and clasped, sort of, gathered together. I in my mind, I don't know if Jen meant this, I didn't ask this. In my mind, it was sort of a kind of look, instead of like a loose, I don't know if you see me doing this to my hair in the little box there, but not a loosening of the hair, like a freeing. There's a claspedness. Clasped is tightening, like a sort of, I'm gathered together, I got it together, I'm moving along kind of sense to it. And subtle, but the fact that there are two questions here really draws attention to this subtle little moment of this noticing of this hair clasped and what it could mean. I don't know if it does, but what is definitely sure is that this desperate plea to connect is something that's been long inside the speaker, and this little situation here with the moon jellyfish confirms this for the speaker. Wow, I really don't want to experience this kind of overwhelming, intense situation by myself. So now is the point in the video where I give you a writing prompt. And if you don't know what kind of writing prompt I'm going to give you, well, I can't imagine why you're surprised. It is to write a poem with a volta in it, to consciously write a poem with a volta in it. And the way you're going to do that is to not write a new poem, actually, unless you want to, and you already know the topic you're going to write about. I'm not giving a topic this time. I want you to be conscious about the volta, okay? And where Jen had her volta appear, I think I said it was the fifth to last line. I didn't see how many lines were in that poem, but in any case, sort of 2/3 of the way down in the poem. That's a sort of typical place. Sometimes penultimate line, sometimes the actual end of the poem there's a turn at the very end, which is really hard to pull off. But definitely towards at least 2/3 of the way down in your poem. I think it's good general area. When you're being conscious about it, okay, I don't believe in these rules that you actually have to do this mathematical calculation to make something work, a craft element work in a poem. No, but as an exercise and as conscious activity, yes, look for 2/3 of the way down or penultimate or final line. Even though knowing the final line is difficult, because you're building up an expectation all the way through your poem, and then you're throwing this turn in at the end, and people might say, yeah, it doesn't work. So you have to be careful. But anyways, you're going to get a draft of an older poem, one that you've been having trouble with, you don't know what to do with. Maybe the volta is the fix in quotation marks. Maybe it'll work for you, and just see what kind of turn you can put in the poem and what it does to the poem. It will definitely change the poem. And take a risk. Say that thing that the critic in your head. You probably are all in workshop groups, and there's probably one person that always catches you on stuff. And what that person would say, why don't you just go ahead and, what they would say something against, go ahead and put that thing in the poem and let it just sit there for a while. Go back to that poem in a day or two. And then maybe that person's right. You should either shift that, turn around, get rid of it. But it's a good exercise to check out what a volta does. As I said, 2/3 of the way down, penultimate line or final line, if you're really going for the risky gold, which I recommend always. Take risks, definitely. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to engaging you all again as we help our poems become their best selves. Bye.